Hey everyone, I'm Gonzo, this is Mark, and today we're going to talk about how to play Dungeons & Dragons with kids. Should be fun. Mark, my friend, playing Dungeons & Dragons with kids is a whole different story than playing with adults.
Yes.
I've played quite a bit with my kids, but when we first started playing, my youngest was around 13 or so. So, and my oldest was in the 20s.
Right.
So it was an older group to start with. So I can say I played with kids for quite a while, but not with what the experience you've recently had. And we wanted to talk about that because I know a lot of parents are interested in ways that they can involve their children in D&D, and how do they go about doing that when it is kind of an adult area. You know, there are some things that are more adult oriented in the game. So we came up with some tips on playing with kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially after a recent experience that we're going to talk about. So I guess the first one we want to talk about, or the first tip, would be character creation. How do you go about preparing for creating characters with children? First of all, who did you play with, or how many did you play with?
Yeah, so I have a lot of nephews and nieces, but just recently I played with 7, age range from 7 to 16, and they all wanted me to DM a game. They're real excited the fact that I have a YouTube channel. They think that's kind of cool. So they wanted to play this thing I talk about all the time. I think it's kind of cool. So they wanted to play with their Uncle Mark, and so I'm like, all right, sounds like a great thing. So I prepared them, and we played for 12 hours total, 3 different sessions. The first session was 5.5 hours. I didn't expect it to go that long.
Right.
But man, they were just enthralled, and the parents were like, I can't believe you kept him engaged for 5.5 hours. And so it went really, really well. But I learned some things, and so yeah, we thought we'd share some of those tips, the things I learned along the way. Now,
all right, so character creation.
Yes,
Helping children with character creation.
So normally we'd have a session 0, and that's how we kind of handle but in this case, it was like we're just gonna jump in. Mm-hmm. So I pre-generated some characters for them, and just a bunch of them. I had a range, but I tried to keep them simple. So I just had a rogue, a cleric, bard, to try to keep the garden variety characters. And I just laid them on the table, and I said, here you guys choose your characters. And I explained to them a little bit about each character. And so they picked them up, looked at them a little bit and all that. And that's how they picked them. So that was a quick way. I would recommend that way. It went really well. Because we were able to just jump right into play.
Versus opening the handbook and saying there's 12 or 11 races, there's 12 classes, you can do this or that, and having to go through that whole explanation.
I knew that'd be painful.
So with children, pre-generating some characters and letting them just pick from those, you can get right into the game.
Absolutely. So that's what we did. So I pre-generated the characters. So gave them, they picked them out, and they're ready to start. So that's how we started the first game.
So when you're creating the adventure as a dungeon master for children, what did you do? What would be the best thing for us to do as parents?
Well, there's what I did, and there's what the best thing to do. Okay. So what I did is I actually got an adventure off of DM's Guild, which we'd run it before with adults, and I thought I kind of knew it really well, and I'm like, all right, let's just do that. It seemed like a good basic first level adventure, and so I did that. Now, that's kind of why it lasted 5.5 hours. Trying to stay with the story and all that. And I did cut some things and all, and it still was 5.5 hours. So that, I would say, is probably not the way to go. If I did it over again, I would go what I did for session 2 and 3, which is I created it off the top of my head. I will say running the adventure pre-made gave me the luxury to kind of sit back and see what they like and don't like. That was kind of nice. But if you kind of know your kids a little bit, you may know that maybe they like puzzles. Maybe they like the adventure part better, So you could tailor it to their needs. But I really like the idea of session 2 and 3. I made it totally from scratch, and I adjusted it. I did. I homebrewed it completely off the top of my head. And I was able to adjust on the fly. And so the nice thing about that is you're able to shorten it if you need to a little better if you homebrewed it versus I'm flipping through the book going, where am I going to cut? This is going too long. You could do that probably better if you homebrewed it. That the bad guy will just move him up, the big bad evil guy or whatever at the end. So you could do that probably better if something you homebrewed.
And I imagine because we know that children's attention spans are sometimes smaller. I don't know anymore. I mean, adults are just as bad. We're all ready for the next thing as soon as it comes up. Yeah. But generally speaking, you do have to be ready to move to the next scenario, the next room, the next whatever is going on.
Right.
So I think you're right. If you have something that's really malleable where you can move it around a little bit, and if you made it yourself, that's definitely the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, you know it better than anybody.
Yeah. So, Mark, maybe another benefit of homebrewing the game for the children is that you can control the content in a way where you can maybe add humor. I know you told me a story with your group that sounded pretty funny to me.
Yeah, so one of the things they had a goal and they had a bonus goal, and the bonus goal, they really liked that idea. The bonus goal was they had to get something from this mayor of this town who was really abusive guy and really a pain in everybody's side.
They generally are.
Yeah, you know how mayors are.
Mayors.
Yeah, so the side quest was that they had to further embarrass him by stealing his underwear and running it up a flagpole.
Okay.
So the scene that really was pretty awesome was when they were getting kind of dejected. There were two of them had gone off to search his house, and they were getting a little dejected because they're rolling poorly and they're opening drawers and they're not really finding anything. Well, eventually they got a good roll and opened a drawer, and inside was what he thought originally was a bunch of pillowcases stacked up.
Yeah.
So pulls it up and looks and then realizes it's a really big pair of underwear.
Oh boy.
That has like Monday on it on one of them and Tuesday on the next. It has some questionable stains on it. And all.
Oh my.
So they really giggled and thought that was the greatest thing. And then when them actually pulled off the running it up the flagpole without anyone noticing, they were in their glory, just laughing and having a good time. But that I was able to tailor that to the group because I knew they would eat that up, and they did. So the humor really, I think, helps sell it because really, honestly, even if you play with adults and just do a straight game, it's all serious all the time.
Yeah.
That's just not real life. You need some comic relief here and there, and with kids,
more so than
potty
not.
humor always works.
Yeah.
Basically. So
works with us too.
Kind of does.
Okay, that's a great tip. What about setting up the table, the ambiance, all of that?
All right, so I played some good RPG music. Actually, it was themes from World of Warcraft at the beginning to hype them up a bit. And they were, right away they knew they were in for something, and so did that. And when I did this, it was kind of a last minute kind of thing. I didn't know they were going to have me do this, and so I whipped it together pretty quickly. So I grabbed whatever was around the house. I originally, as a teacher, I had bought these to use from in my classroom, and I never did, and thankfully I had them. And they are basically, these are a big giant bag of dice, and they're all individually wrapped sets. There's 15 sets in here.
Wow.
So this was really something. I grabbed these. I'm like, oh, you gotta have dice, so I'll just give them some dice.
I like those red ones there.
Those
Those are nice.
Sweet. Yeah. So I gave them those, and so they had their own set of dice, and then these little miniatures. I didn't really have miniatures. I had a couple that are unpainted, but I had this idea before, and these are these little bases that you put a little cardboard thingy in. And my idea originally was I'll print off a bunch of little character guys and I'll tape them on there and I'll create. I printed them off. I'm like, this is going to take forever.
Right.
So what I did is I grabbed them real quick and I put their initials on here so we knew who was who on the mat. And I just used this is a smaller one, but I had a dry erase board, and this I used for initiative. So I just grabbed this, kind of cobbled it together real quick and ran with it. And it actually did okay. I mean, there was fine. But then as I'm sitting there thinking, no, we got to have legit stuff. So later, I went and I broke into Gonzo's house while I was gone and stole some miniatures and all, which consequently I just grabbed them really quickly. And I grabbed this spider, and because it was cool and all, of course, the druid wanted to turn into a spider. And I grabbed this and an actual battle mat. I mean, you got to have a legit battle mat. Yeah. So that really worked a lot better in the second session than the third session. So, the thing I realized is having these visuals, having what elementary school teachers call manipulatives, having those really helped them. They just dug these really bad, and that led to an addiction, which we'll talk about later.
Well,
so anyway,
there is a warning. There is something. There's consequences to starting Dungeons and Dragons with your children, and we'll let you know this at the end of the video. So be prepared for that.
So yeah, and it went really well. And I will say the thing that I vastly underestimated though was the dice. I gave them dice. You would thought I'd give them gold.
That's how I feel when I get dice.
I am not joking with you when I tell you that some of them slept with them under their pillow. They were very
similar.
Yeah, I know. I mean, so you know how. So it starts.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yeah.
so that's that.
Well, that's really neat, and I'm always been very visual. I know you have too. Art is a big deal for me, so I can imagine a DM screen, with cool art on it, like some of the ones we have in our backdrops here, and that you can get, or just printing out cool pieces of art that are appropriate for the group that you're playing with.
Right.
And letting them come into a setting where they initially see and hear, you had music playing.
Yeah.
What they're about to experience. Right. That has got to grab anyone, especially children, in ways that maybe other things don't do, like a static video game on a screen or something.
Right.
So I think that must have done a great job. Now, those are 3 great tips or 3 great experiences you had. What are some surprises you had working with these children? So
so I would say
within the game itself, like
as we played, a couple of things jumped out, especially when I. In between sessions, that was kind of comical. The kids are all gathered around and saying, we're going to do next, it'd be neat if we had this. And boy, I wish we had this. So I'm like, okay. So I'm mentally taking these down and all. But one of the things that they were really interested in was shopping. Now, we've seen videos.
I think we've done a video
on shopping. How boring shopping can be typically. And so they were like, it'd be great if there was a store that could spend this gold that we got in this last adventure. And I was like, oh, great. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
They loved it. And later, shower thoughts kind of things, I was like, they probably liked it because they don't get to spend money and have control over money and be able to buy whatever they want. So they were role-playing. They were role-playing outside of their normal life, which is what we want in D&D.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty neat thing. And the other thing is they were really interested in pets. Pets were really important to them.
That's key.
Pets were that. In the earlier adventure that I ran, they actually got some kobold eggs, which I know as a DM I was always setting myself up for a problem. But they got these kobold eggs, and they were really excited about having them. And they were worried about, like, were we going to feed them when they hatch and things like that. So that was all a thing that I had not really anticipated. So that was different. And the other thing was just the constant interest. And I'd forgotten as a kid how obsessed we were with D&D when we first started playing. That's all they wanted to talk about. We went to the beach, and at one point I was in the water, and they all gathered around asking me questions about Dungeons and Dragons. It was the wildest, most exciting thing that I've experienced in a long time, because it was just really neat to see the energy and the wonderment of playing this game and be able to do just about anything you want. They just really were hooked.
So Mark, working with children, how did it go when you came across combat situations or just working together? I know how our tables go. Right. We can spend 45 minutes trying to figure out how we're going to get through a door. So how did that work with you guys?
Yeah, so first of all, combat I knew was going to be a little tricky, because how are you going to get them to understand combat? And combat can really bog down. I just kind of knew the first round of combat for sure is going to bog down and be rough. So what I did was I went around the table and asked and worked with each kid, basically, what do you want to do? Here's what you can do. Here's the different options. What do you want to do? And after a few times of that, they were able to do it themselves. And so that was really helpful in that respect.
Almost as if you're a teacher.
Yeah.
It's so weird. They're used to being in classroom settings anyway.
It's really strange.
That's strange.
So anyway, the other part is the working together. Honestly, there wasn't as much fighting as there normally is when you get this group together. They really kind of... Obviously, there's some disagreement, as you would like this. They have their own goals in mind, what they want to accomplish, but they would finally gel together and come together with an agreement of what they should do. And actually, one of them was really complicated because they had a heist, so they broke into 2 groups to pull off a heist, which I was impressed that they were able to figure out who's going to do what with who and all those things. There were some natural leaders that kind of came to the head, and even one 7-year-old decided she wanted to do her own thing, and so I had to work with that a little bit. So it was kind of an interesting split the party.
As every good group does.
Not just once, but twice. Yeah. So I was like, okay, all right, I'm really working as a DM. Thanks. Yeah. So that was a challenge, but I was impressed, and then the parents were glowing, like, I can't believe they weren't really fighting. They were on their electronics, and so it was really cool to see that as they came together. So.
Right.
But I will say another thing that I learned, you asked about things to learn, is the value of real world treasure. You get loot in this game, and it's not necessarily real world, but by giving them dice, and then later I gave them some dungeon class stickers, of course.
That's cool.
Giving them, exactly. You thought I'd give them $100 bills. They were so excited. They immediately put them on their electronics.
We sell those for $100.
Yeah.
Link in the description.
So they actually stuck them on the back of their electronics and all, and they were really excited about it. But I had really vastly underestimated that. But again, I think it's the it's gifts. It's something that it's a reward.
Tangible,
they feel like,
right.
and we give out inspiration in the game. And I thought about it, but I thought, man, that might start a fight if I give it to one kid and not all the other. But maybe another idea, and one thing I was like, good job with that, and complimenting them when they figured things out and role played, and really, that's a really great idea, you know. And they surprised me really in the imagination that really sparked
Positive reinforcement. Who
Absolutely.
knew? Who knew?
I'm
Learning something every day.
I
I just yell at my players. You do better.
Yeah.
You be ready.
That's right.
You should know what that spell is.
Unbelievable. I know.
Wow.
Maybe we try this.
We'll try it.
Might work. Who knows? All right. So one of the takeaways, two things I take away from this experience, is that I'll never forget as long as I live, my niece, 7-year-old niece, saying, "I take up my warhammer and I smash him on the head." Like, that is the cutest thing. I'll
That's so
always
cute.
remember that. It's
Every
so
parent's
adorable.
gotta
Yeah,
be,
I mean, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Melting their heart.
And the other thing is my sister-in-law, when we're in the game store and she sees the monster manual, and she said, "That looks like something I could give my son to keep him quiet in church." And I'm like, yeah.
That's what most people think about when they
do
see
that.
monster manuals.
So I'm like, she needs to send pictures when she does that.
All right, Mark, listen. I can feel how much fun you had dungeon mastering with these children.
Yes.
You know, or game mastering. I can tell that your batteries have been recharged.
Oh yeah.
As a dungeon master.
Yeah.
And I think that's our classic. That's our warning, or our trepidation here is that if you, as a parent or as an older brother, older sister, or whoever you are, the cool uncle, if you're able to game master for a group of kids, be prepared for them to be game on at all times, right?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what you experienced personally.
Yeah, and not only that, the spillover after, I
Right.
wasn't prepared for that either. You know, immediately,
going.
the older daughter went to the game store and spent over $100 in books and.
Well, we didn't
things.
need to get into details about
Yeah.
finances.
Yeah. The other group wanted to go with me to their game store to go pick out minis. Some of the younger kids, and so and then they later sent me pictures of them painting minis. So
awesome.
they've caught the mini bug. They love dice. So they're really interested in carrying this over. So they have definitely caught the bug that is this game and all the aspects of it. Really.
And you have been
I've been
regenerated
Yeah.
as a dungeon master. So now we can
Regenerated.
expect better games from you as
absolutely.
our dungeon master.
Oh yeah.
And that's what it's all about, I would say. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We love our subscribers. We love all of your comments. Let us know your experiences with playing Dungeons & Dragons with children. I'm sure they vary.
Sure.
Mark had a really good experience over the last few weeks, over the summer, and I'm hoping you will too. So with that, class dismissed.